What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 best season 2 builds in last Epoch. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what skills and upgrades should you focus on. Then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it for the end game. And then finally we will go over the passive tree, stats, your skill rotations, and even what idols and blessings should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. This is a powerful melee bruiser whose main playstyle is built to dominate the battlefield with relentless spinning carnage. Our main gameplay loop is to keep spinning to ramp up our damage and area coverage, which eventually will sweep nearly the entire screen of the enemies with the warpath. This is the ultimate spin to win automatic blades build, and our main focus is on the Warrior's Fury passive, which scales the void melee damage and AoV to incredible levels. While Warpath becomes more mana hungry the longer it's used, the Void Well passive and the high mana stacking will allow you to spin for an extended period. But keep in mind that it's very crucial to take the Void Well if you're using the Warrior's Fury. And also supporting skills like Devouring Orb, Anomaly, Symbols of the Hope, and Abyssal Echoes will provide excellent buffs to amplify our power. This build works great without relying on uniques, but if you get your hands on items like the Clodo's Needle, Siphon of the Anguish, Shattered Chains, Anchor of Oblivion, and the Nihils, then you can push its damage and effectiveness to an entirely new level. So let's start off with our skills, and we are going to be using the Warpath, which is our main DPS skill. By using these passives, we will gain a huge damage and AoV buff. Then second, we got the Devouring Orb, which is the main source of Void Essence. Our nodes are focused on the extra damage, and we will place the skill on the skill bar, but not manually use it, as it's set up to automatically activate with the Abyssal Rush. Then next we're using Anomaly, which provides powerful buffs, and our nodes are focused on giving us Void Shred, along with more attack speed. Then next we got the Symbols of Hope that provides even more buffs. And then finally we're using the Abyssal Echoes that provide additional buffs and is automatically cast with the Warpath. Next up we got Passive Tree, and this is how it should look like in the Sentinel category. We mainly went with nodes that gives us bunch of defenses like armor, fire and void resistance, block effectiveness, more health, and attributes like strength and vitality. Then next we got our Paladin category with nodes that gives us more attunement, then also elemental resistances, more health and block effectiveness. And then finally we're also heavily investing into the Void Knight category, with all of these points allocated like this. So we want to go big on increased void and physical resistance, increased damage, more melee and void damage leached as life, void penetration, increased void damage, and pretty much other nodes that gives us stats to void effects. Next up we also got the Weaver tree, and I'm still experimenting, so it's not fully done. But for right now this is the most optimal way to build it for pretty much most of the builds. So we start right here, then go like this. Then pretty much keep making this type of circle and then end it at around this point. To make the most out of this Weaver tree, we want to aim for items with a higher Weaver will, which could be closer to 25 to maximize its potential upgrades. Also, what at least I like to do is run level 100 zones to increase the chance of finding the higher Weaver's will item. Then also focus on the monolith timelines with unique echo rewards for the item type you desire. And lastly, you could also increase the timeline corruption to enhance the reward quality even further. But overall, this Weaver tree will offer an alternative path to enhancing unique items, which allows you to grow stronger by doing specific endgame content. Next we have our equipment, and for the head on the helmet we are using the Leon 9 Great Helm with armor, mana and reduced channel cost. Then for amulet we got the Nihils with increased health, more mana, increased movement speed and more levels to all skills. Then for the weapon we got the Clodo's Needle with melee damage, melee critical strike chance, increased melee attack speed and void melee damage. We went with this one because it has a great damage, crit and high base attack rate. You can farm it from the Last Wood Folly of the Waben Echoes. Then for the chest we got the Titan Heart with armor, lightning resistance, levels of the Warpath and increased melee damage. Then for first ring we got the Flames of the Midnight with Ward Decay, increased critical strike chance, and increased minion health. We went with this one because it provides us with a 20% movement speed, plus a bit of extra void penetration. Then for build we got a Shattered Chains with armor, potion slots, ward gain on potion use and more health. Then for second ring we got the Siphon of the Anguish with elemental resistance, strength and more health. The Siphon of Anguish with the Shattered Chains is a great combination because of their huge boost to our damage and leech. Then for the gloves we got Eternal Gauntlets with increased melee attack speed, mana and more health. Then for shoes we got the Solarian Step with armor, increased movement speed, and melee critical strike multiplier. And lastly we got the Anchor of Oblivion with increased armor, mana, increased void damage and more endurance. This is great for easily getting max endurance and increased defenses. So overall this is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and modifiers to look for. But no matter what you have, just try to build around increasing as much mana as possible, while also getting reduced channel cost, so we would be able to use the warpath for a lot longer. And now finally we've come to the gameplay, and I will show you two different rotations, so one for general AoV farming and the other one for single target. And by the way, as most of the other skills are automatic, so these rotations are extremely easy. So first up we got our AoV rotation, and for the first one we want to start our fights by activating the warpath, which is our go-to for this classic spin to win gameplay. And then afterwards, just keep it channeling to stack up massive damage and AoV, thanks to the Warrior's Fury. Then also, stay mobile to auto-cast Devouring Orb as you move through the enemies, and make sure that our time bubble is always active by consistently triggering Anomaly. And then second of all we got bossing, which to be honest I already covered a little bit in the first rotation. So to summarize it, then this time we want to start fights by maximizing our damage, by keeping all 4 buffs active all the time. So be sure to hit the bosses with Anomaly to trigger the Mark of the Root. Then as before, stay mobile, so move at least 4 meters in the previous 2 seconds to create the echoes with the warpath that are powered by the Echo Knight. And lastly, for quick boss encounters, boost our DPS fully by ramping up the Warrior's Fury. This is a powerful mage that brings the freeze and melts enemies in seconds. By harnessing the chilling power of the ice and dual wielding swords, the Shatter Strike will obliterate the enemy packs and shred the bosses in no time. To fuel the onslaught, we will use Mana Strike to rapidly regenerate mana and ensure that you can keep spamming the Shatter Strike without slowing down. Then also we will utilize the Enhanced Weapon to amp up our damage potential with strong offensive buffs. Also, the teleport will give us a swift responsive movement across the battlefield. However, when things get dicey, the Flame Ward is your key offensive cooldown. To use it against big hits, the best part about this build is that no unique items are required for it to work. Although, if you want to maximize your DPS, then get geared like the Kestrel, the Bone Clamor Barbute, Siphon of the Anguish, Shatter Chains and the Nihils. And all in all, this Spellblade build will deliver solid clear speed and devastating single target damage. While it does need some investment to become tanky, if you're chasing a high DPS melee powerhouse, then this build is absolutely worth trying. So let's start off with our skills, and we are going to be using the Shatter Strike, which is our primary damage dealing skill. We've chosen nodes like the Whiteout, which makes each one of our casts hit 3 times, that obviously will dramatically boost our output. Then second, we got the Mana Strike, which is your go-to tool for restoring mana. To maximize its efficiency, we will invest into nodes like the Arcanist Blade, the Critical Mana, Bountiful Victory and the Mana Drain. Then next we're using the Teleport, which serves as your primary mobility skill. With nodes like the Crystalline Passage, Resonant Plasma and the Time Dilation, each passive will not only move you swiftly but also grant you a temporarily boost to cold resistance and flat armor. Then next we got the Flame Ward, which is your core defensive ability, by offering impressive damage reduction that makes you exceptionally durable, well at least while it's active. And then finally we're using the active Enhanced Weapon, which gives us a huge damage boost while it's active. It grants percentage increased melee attack speed through Celerity and adds flat melee cold damage via the Frost brand. Next up we got the passive tree, and this is how it should look like in the mage category. We mainly went with nodes that gives us bunch of health and mana, more ward retention, increased cast speed, and fire and lightning resistance as well as intelligence. Then next we got our sorcerer category, and we get this one just for the node that gives us more mana and ward per second. Then next we also want to go with the rune master category, again just for this one that gives us more health and less damage taken from ignited or the chilled enemies. And then finally we're also heavily investing into the Spellblade category, with all these points allocated like this. So we want to go big on increased fire, cold and lightning damage, more intelligence and ward gained. Then also we need dexterity, increased melee attack speed, more melee cold damage and cast speed. Next we have our equipment, and for the head on the helmet we're using the Bone Clamor Barbute with armor, dexterity, reduced bonus damage taken from the crits, as well as intelligence and necrotic resistance. Then for amulet we got the Nihils with increased health, mana and movement speed, as well as critical strike multiplier. more levels to all skills, as well as mana regen and more to all resistances. Then for weapon, we're going with the dual wielding sizers of the Atropos. These swords are in both hands and gives us melee attack damage, attack speed, chance to apply slow, and chance to apply shred. This weapon provides huge damage and you can farm it from the Last Wood Folly of the Vaven Echoes. Then for chest armor, we got the Kestrel with armor, dexterity, more levels to Shadow Strike, increased cold damage, and more to health. This item has a bunch of great stats that allow us to get the haste buffs when our nodes like the Teleport and Comet Crush are fully maxed. Then for our first ring, we got the Siphon of Anguish with more to all elemental resistances, more intelligence and dexterity, as well as increased movement speed and increased leech rate. Then for the belt, we're using the Shattered Chains with armor, more potion slots, increased health, increased armor, and more damage. Because of the Shattered Chains and the Siphon of Anguish buff, we will boost our DPS significantly, thanks to their Doom synergy. Then for the second ring, we got the Red Rings of Altaria with increased movement speed, more to all attributes and resistances, as well as health, mana, and dodge rating. Then for gloves, we got the Plated Gauntlets with armor, increased melee attack speed, more dexterity, health, and even more reduced bonus damage taken from crits. Then for boots, we got the Foot of the Mountain with armor, increased movement speed, more endurance, and more to all attributes. This is for sure the best boost for defenses, as we are mainly focused on being a super strong melee mage, so getting great armor and endurance is very important. And then lastly for relic, we are using the Diotan's Bloody Nim, with the ward per second, more dexterity, levels to Shatter Strike, and increased mana regen. So overall, this is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and modifiers to look for. But no matter what you have, try to build around increasing as much defenses as possible, because we are going to be in melee range, and unlike other mage builds, we will need a lot more HP. And now finally we've come to the gameplay, and I will show you two different rotations, so one for general AoV farming and the other one for single target slash against bosses. And by the way, as most of the skills are automatic, so these rotations are extremely easy. So first up we got our AoV rotation, and for this one we want to start our fights by casting the teleport to bolster our defenses. Then second, set the enhanced weapon to autocast on cooldown for consistent damage boost. Then next, use the Shatter Strike as your main attack, and keep it swinging until the enemy drops or you're out of mana. Then when your mana runs low, then hit them with the Mana Strike to keep it topped up and back up. Next up, activate the Flame Ward permanently when you sense incoming damage. And lastly, keep your teleport buffs active by recasting it before they run out. And then second of all, we got bossing, which to be honest already covered a little bit in the first rotation. But to basically summarize it, then this time we want to start fights by keeping your defensive buffs up at all the time, to make a full use of them. Then spend your mana aggressively to stack the bleeds on yourself as fast as possible. Next, use the Flame Ward as your lifeline, so use it to block heavy incoming damage, especially during big boss attacks. And then of course when using Shatter Strike, aim carefully and position yourself smartly, so both the left and the right swings would land on the boss for double the damage output. This is a powerful assassin whose main playstyle is to command the Falcon, to dive down from the skies and unleash the Umbral Blades, which are deadly throwing attacks that erupt into massive cold explosions that destroy enemies in seconds. We'll glide effortlessly across the battlefield with this powerful setup, because we will maximize the Twilight Strike passive within the Aerial Assault skill. Also, with the cooldown reduction provided by the free-floating bird node, you can unleash Explosive Trap repeatedly, which creates a seamless loop between the Dive Bomb and Aerial Assault. And on top of this, we'll also go with the Smoke Bomb, as it is a mobility tool and a source of shadows. While this build doesn't depend on uniques to operate efficiently, its peak performance revolves around the Razorfall boots. The Talents of Valor also offer excellent synergy, granting even more cooldown reduction. And other standout gear includes the Elos of Abundance, Lyraka's Gloves, Unscented Sphere, Brewmaster's Buckle, and the Peak of the Mountain, which are all great additions to boost our DPS power to its full potential. So let's start off with our skills, and we are going to be using the Explosive Trap. Then second, we go with the Aerial Assault skill, which is a very powerful trigger for unleashing a flurry of Umbral Blades. Then next we're using the Smoke Bomb skill, that offers excellent utility and significantly boosts our DPS in this setup. Then next we got the Umbral Blades. Even though you won't be casting Falconry directly, it will still need to stay on your action bar to enable the Aerial Assault and Dive Bomb. And then finally, we're using the Dive Bomb, that serves as your primary method for generating dust shrouds, especially with the help of the Flock of the Crows. Next up we got the passive tree, and this is how it should look like in the row category. We mainly went with nodes that gives us attack speed, more health and dexterity, then even dodge rating and haste on hit chance. Then next we got our marksman category, with things that gives us more dexterity and dodge rating debuffing, then more damage with concentration, then also more dodge rating and increased movement speed. Then also we want to go with the Blade Dancer just for this one node, that gives us more dexterity and increased glancing blow chance. And then finally we're also heavily investing into the Falconer category, with all of these points allocated like this. So we want to go big on increased health and dodge rating, then chance to gain haste, more damage increase, added throwing damage, increased crit chance and multipliers, as well as health gain on kill. Next we have our equipment, and for the head we're using the Peak Mountain with armor, dexterity, health, increased health and increased critical strike chance. This is a really good helmet because it gives us bunch of stats and tons of percentages. Then for amulet we are going with the Night Heals that has modifiers like increased health and mana, more throwing damage, more levels of all skills and more to all resistances. Then for weapon we are going with the Talents of the Valor bow that has bow damage, critical strike multiplier, increased critical strike chance and more levels to most of our skills. This is an amazing weapon that pretty much makes the build work to its full potential, so I recommend to try to get it as soon as possible, as its crit chance and extra bow attack speeds are insane. Then for chest armor, we take the Elosis Abandoned with the armor, increased dodge rating, increased damage over time, more dexterity and increased health. Then for offhand, we go with the Spider Silk Quiver, with a chance to apply slow on a hit, more damage to slowed enemies, increased cold damage and more dexterity. Then for rings we go the same too, which are the red rings of the Altaria with increased movement speed, more throwing damage, more to all attributes, more to all resistances and increased health, mana and dodge rating. And these are still viable even if you don't meet the 180 attribute requirement. Then for belt we go the Brewmaster Buckle with armor, potion slots, health, vitality and more endurance. This is great for powerful stats, and to farm it, at least I recommend to go into the brand brewery of the Vaven Echoes. Then for gloves we go the Licorice class with armor, endurance, throwing damage and more dexterity. Then for boots we go the Razorfall with armor, increased movement speed, increased effect of haste and more dexterity. And lastly we got the Ucanio Sphere with increased cold and lightning damage, throwing damage, dexterity and more to cold and lightning resistance. So overall this is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and modifiers to look for. But no matter what you have, just try to build around getting as much dexterity as possible to scale the Razorfall. And now finally we've come to the gameplay, and I will show you two rotations, so one for general AoV farming and the other one for single target slash against bosses. So first up we got our AoV rotation, and for this one we want to start our fights by continuously throwing the explosive chaps at the enemies to build up offensive buffs and reduce our cooldowns. Then use the smoke bomb to generate shadows, which are triggered on wings of the shadows. Then also keep on using the dive bomb and aerial assault for constant rotation. And lastly, we can finish it off by unleashing the Umbral Blades, or barrage of explosions across the battlefield. And then second of all we got bossing, which to be honest I've already covered a little bit in the first rotation. But to basically summarize it, then this time we want to start fights by throwing the shadows created by the smoke bomb close to the boss to ensure that all of our Shadow Falcons from our Wings on Shadows will hit their mark with the full effect. Then stay within the smoke bomb and the feathersome zones to maximize your survivability with the buffs they offer. And finally, make sure to keep an evade charge reserved to avoid crucial boss mechanics. But besides that, just keep spamming explosive chap and see enemies melt in seconds.